Good afternoon. Welcome back to Career Accelerator Hacks Live. Sorry that we're slightly late and we had a few technical issues. We've had to jump out and jump back in again. But today I'm so excited to be joined by Helen Phillips, who is a good friend of mine and director of The Contract Doctor. And their strapline is compliance cured. So Helen has worked in the recruitment industry for 8 years. I thought it was a fantastic opportunity because there have been so many businesses scaling up, recruitment business scaling up and starting up over the last 18 months. It'd be a great opportunity for Helen to come in and tell us everything we need to know about compliance. So welcome, Helen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Apologies for my house move at the moment. So I'm not normally with a big radiator in the background, and I'm not normally in a pajama top, but it's all going to be fine. We're just going to get on with it.
Bless you. And honestly, thank you so much for doing this today. So so Helen messaged me earlier saying, I'm kind of in the middle of moving, and you're moving tomorrow, aren't you?
Moving tomorrow. So if my cat wanders, he's actually asleep right now, so he won't do. He's been wandering into video calls all day because I'm in a chair that obviously smells like the cat downstairs. It's not my chair. So if he was wandering across, I apologise for that as well.
Oh, bless you. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And if anyone has got any questions that they want to ask Helen, please ask away. I think it's really important that we do talk about kind of all the back office stuff that goes on behind making a recruitment business work. But I suppose I want to really start off with asking you about your career history. So where did it all start? I love a career journey. Tell me your story.
So I was working in law for quite a few years and I absolutely loved it. I was at quite a good Magic Circle firm working until 2 a.m. and I found it quite exciting. I kind of felt like, oh, look at me, paralegaling in law firms. It's really exciting. Then I had a few medical issues. As you know, I had kidney failure for a while and decided that actually I don't want to do law anymore. I don't want to work till 2 a.m. But I wasn't actually qualified to do anything else. So what do you do when you're not qualified for anything? You become a recruiter.
Oh, I love that.
You never set out to be a recruiter, do you? It's always something that you fall into. And then you either think, actually, I love this and I'm really good at it. Or you think, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Like, it's so much harder than people imagine it's going to be that I just couldn't cut it. It just was not for me at all. But at the same time, I really loved being around recruiters, that kind of, they are a different breed. They're just a completely different personality to anyone else. And I just really enjoyed working with them. So thankfully, the company that I was at told me to go into their legal team. And that is where I stayed. I jumped around a couple of different recruitment companies, helping to set up their back office, setting up their contracts, making sure that they were actually working properly. And at that point, I just thought, once I've gone in and I've sorted out the back office, my contracts are up and running, they actually don't need me sitting here full time and full-time salary, just internet shopping. And with my last boss, I went and said to him, I don't do any work. I just sit and internet shop all day until a contract is in. It takes me a couple of hours and then I internet shop again. And he said, well, I earn enough money. So if I want to pay you to internet shop, then I will. Wow. And I thought, I kind of want to be able to say that to someone like, yeah, you know what? I really like you working here. So I'm just going to pay you to internet shop. So I thought, I'm going to leave. That's my cue to definitely leave. You don't care if I'm that busy. You've got enough money that you don't care what I'm doing. It's my chance to set up on my own, see what I can do.
Wow. And that's when the Contract Doctor was born.
It was. We set up in September 2017, sat at my desk in my company with all my team were like, go on, do it. Go on, do it. And as soon as I pushed the button that we were registered, we were like, now what happens? Nothing.
I love it. That's brilliant. So take me back to the beginning then. Talk to me about these kind of 2 a.m. finishes, because I am an absolute sucker for like a law, like, The Good Wife or anything. I love all that, like the fighting, the in-court stuff, the, putting the case together. I love those and medical dramas, so it gives an insight into my life. But yeah, so what is it like kind of working in that environment and working till 2 o'clock in the morning, and how do you do it?
Well, I looked at a lot of spreadsheets.
Right.
I once sat up until 2 a.m. with my team, putting documents into reverse date order. We ordered a pizza. That was good. We didn't actually do anything exciting. I didn't work in investigation. I worked in commercial. All
Okay.
I did was sit and read documents and look on spreadsheets and copy and paste data from one spreadsheet to another. So that's kind of what I thought life would be like when I set up on my own, looking at spreadsheets and looking at paperwork. But actually, we get some really exciting things in. No, it's not someone saying to me, hey, Helen, go and look at these 5 spreadsheets and compile them into one. Sometimes I do that for fun.
Yeah.
Clients, but a lot of the time we do way more interesting things like data protection. Rare.
Incredible. So talk to me about the services that you offer to your clients and probably the biggest challenges that they're facing at the moment.
So a lot of the time people have set up incorrectly. We don't tend to see people, we're getting it more and more, but the majority of our clients come to us when they've already fucked up somewhere. Shouldn't swear, should I? Screwed up somewhere. One for Lucy on a swear bingo card. So they come to us when they've already had an issue, something has gone wrong, they've had a backdoor hire, they're not being paid, contract has been terminated, anything like that has happened. And then when they come over and they show me their initial contracts and I have a look and it's a 1-pager and it literally just says, this is what the fee is. I just think, oh my goodness, how have you only had one bad thing happen to you? Sometimes it's an assignment schedule that's been sent out and it has no liability in there whatsoever. So that's where we tend to see people after they've already had a mistake happen and they come to rectify those terms and conditions. Other times we're getting quite a lot of startups coming, which this is my favorite time because they come to you at the beginning because they want to set up properly. And a lot of them say, we're going to start out in perm because, perm's really easy and it's what we know and we don't have to worry about factoring, we don't have to worry about money, which is great. But contract is where the fun is. I love contract recruitment. It's also where you're going to sell. Trying to sell a perm business, you're not really going to get an awful lot, but trying to sell a contract business that's got that repeat business in there, you're going to get a lot more for your money. And this is where I always tell startups, if you get the opportunity, take it, because we can help guide you through that. So we get them set up right from the beginning, shareholder agreements in place, contracts in place, data protection in place. We can handle their contract back office to either run it for them completely so they don't need a full-time person, or even train them to do it. They're not doing much contract work. They don't need to worry about doing much for it. As long as they know how to review their contracts or just use us for it, they can do the actual contractor running, make sure they get the compliance stuff in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, I think, because, I've worked in recruitment for 20 years and I worked for an American business called Robert Half when SOX compliance came in. And I remember that hitting us like an absolute ton of bricks. The hoops that we had to run through and jump through in order to be compliant, even from a SOX compliant perspective. It makes you wonder what we were doing before. And I think my question to you is, how have you seen the landscape change, even in the 8 years that you've been in the industry? Because what we're seeing at the kind of the coalface is not even, we used to send a CV out and it would have our terms of business on it. And it would be, if you see this candidate or interview this candidate through us, this is seen as an introduction. It goes so much deeper now, doesn't it? Clients are sending us their terms of business. We're sending theirs. It goes through the both legal teams and it can be stuck there for weeks. It's not as agile. And rightly or wrongly, obviously we have to be compliant, but it's not as agile to go and just work with anyone anymore in terms of providing recruitment services.
Yeah, and I think people are becoming more aware of that, to be honest, especially when it comes to working in foreign jurisdictions. It used to be, I've still got one client who works in Switzerland and thinks that there is no compliance issues with that, and trying to tell the client, there's massive issues working in Switzerland. You physically don't want to be doing that without getting professional advice. No, it's fine. We've always done it. Yeah, but you've been very, very lucky up until now. And not only that, if you do come and sell, that's not where the sale ends. They go back and they look, where are your previous risks? What can happen in the last few years that you've been in recruitment? So it's trying to tell people that actually, what is your end game here? What are you looking to do? Have you thought about the risks that might be associated with that? And then obviously we've got Brexit. People didn't bother updating their terms and conditions to account for Brexit. Some people still think that GDPR is the wholly applicable law. It was never even a law. It was a regulation. We always have the Data Protection Act. Now we've incorporated a lot of GDPR in there, but we still need to make minor adjustments to our privacy notices. And same as when we're looking at having an authorised representative in the EU, if you're working in Europe, people don't know a lot of this stuff. And unless you do have a professional telling you or advising you, actually, the law's changed on this, you could think about updating this. You just don't know. And recruiters are trying to get more compliant. They genuinely are, especially some of our mid-sized companies who are a bit more modern. They're the ones who will come to us proactively and say, I think we're doing this wrong. Can you tell us if we are or not? And that never happened. Even when I was working in the back office of recruitment companies, and I would say, oh, do a bit of research here. I think this might apply. No, don't worry. No, don't worry. We've always done it. It's absolutely fine. Whereas the more modern companies do want to be more compliant, and not just that, they're more conscious about diversity, inclusion, discrimination, all of these new things that mean that, yes, being legal is obviously to their agenda, being compliant is right up there, but also the social culture is also changing. It's more acceptable for people to have a handbook which isn't be in at this time, leave at this time. We've got the flexible working. That also comes with its legal issues. Are you giving people a laptop? Are you making sure that they're using it properly? Can they use their personal laptops? Do you have permission to wipe it? All of these things that come with this new way of working, it needs thought about. It needs you to actually take some time to think, we want to do this. Great. Not a problem at all. Now, how do we go about and do that so that you are protected, but you also make it fun? You also still do what it was that you intended it to be.
Brilliant. I've got so many questions. Question number one, talk to me about what it's like working with Switzerland then. Why is that a particular issue? Because interestingly, I work with a lot of recruiters who are going into different markets and who are, they are becoming specialists in, say, I don't know, the UK, and saying, right, we're now going to go and replicate this over in Germany, or we're going to go and replicate this over in America. So what is it about Switzerland that sends alarm bells towards you?
So Switzerland have got massive labour leasing laws. And just to really generalise, taking money out of Switzerland for a resource that you are leasing is a big issue. You always need to have that intermediary. We've got a lot of contacts in Switzerland who can actually help people to get the license required if they are interested in working over there, or even setting up an entity over there if you're planning on doing a lot of work. But generally speaking, bringing money out of Switzerland for a resource that you're placing is a big no-no, and you shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. And then talk to me about, in a little bit more detail around the kind of the impact that Brexit is having, or, and is continuing to have on the, in the industry.
I think it's the unknown, to be honest, because obviously we do have this adequacy status. So we are actually able to trade. But when it comes to free movement, a lot of people do need work permits. And we've got some recruitment agencies in the UK who are refusing to accept that, yes, you've still got people who are able to go and move around, but we're not part of Europe anymore. We do need to prove that they're able to work there. So you've got your data protection issue, which you can get around with adequacy, adding new clauses to your contracts, updating your privacy notice, engaging compliance specialists who can advise on if you do need a work permit or if there's anything else that needs to change. But apart from that, I think it's more mindset. Obviously, there's the authorised representative who we discussed earlier that a lot of people still don't know about. But it is mindset. We're seeing a lot of clients push back on terms in a contract because they don't understand it. And a lot of the time when they would never bother reading the data protection clauses, they're now pushing back and saying, well, this can't apply anymore because GDPR doesn't apply anymore. Well, I mean, of course, GDPR still applies. It's still a regulation in Europe. It's still a thing. If we're working with you, we're still going to abide by it. But we also just have these extra obligations that we also need to abide by because we're a UK company. So it's just trying to help clients to see that, yes, we're not in Europe anymore, but we can still trade with you, and making sure that you understand your rules as well. We've got a compliance team here who are helping people when it comes to things like that. And we've also got an authorized representative company that we partner with to make sure that everyone can get things in order. But I wouldn't say anyone's an actual expert on Brexit because it was so confusing. It was so new. Everything that was drafted to make way for Brexit was really bad. Sorry.
The first cat I've had on Career Accelerator Hacks Live. It's cute. Oh, look. Sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought now, but that is real. Look, how lovely. I also want to talk to you about, you made a comment there about D&I, and as recruiters, you know, from a client's perspective, we're asked questions about D&I all the time in terms of kind of when we're bidding for work, you know, what's your D&I, you know, policy and stance and things. What impact can we be making in terms of our compliance and our legal? And then how can we interlink that into like a social culture? How can we integrate that into our businesses? Because it's such an important topic.
It is, and the legal obligations about it are actually, please go away. There's not much in terms of legal obligations except for be a good person. You know, understand that you should be diversifying your team. It's good for your business. You should be including everyone. Good for your business, and you don't want to get involved in any discrimination cases. The biggest thing that we're seeing is people writing out policy documents that state either over complex diversity procedures, which I haven't even understood some of the ones I've seen. I understand that when you go to do a job board or anything like that, you're posting about a job, there are experts out there who can help you to make it very, very neutral. And that's fantastic. What you don't want is to write a policy document where you try to explain that, because you're not the expert there. Someone will come in and help you to do that. We don't do it because it's a completely different subset of what we do. But we work with people who will go in, who will guide people in how to make a job advert so that it is neutral. And people try and write out what they've learned in a policy document. And you physically cannot do that. You have to send people on the training. You can keep your policy document, so you were saying, make sure that you're being neutral about everything, make sure that you are including everyone, make sure that you are trying to attract diverse talent. But sending people on training for this is so important. You can't physically write it out in a policy document. And it's the same when it comes to interviewing. Making your policy so rigid so that nobody understands it, again, train people. And it's so easy once you understand why you should be doing it to start doing it. The last thing that any company needs is any thought of discrimination case sent against them. And it is getting better. However, one of the companies that I worked at, one of my first contracting roles, I don't know if I should say this on air, but I went into
if you don't think you should say it, definitely say it. No, I'm joking.
I went into the company. I'd been there for about 3 hours, and one of the girls in the back office came in and said, the guys outside are discussing my blowjob technique, and they've given me an 8 out of 10. And I just thought,
wow.
Hi, my name's Helen. Nice to meet you. And the girls were just going around sitting on the guy's knees. It was very much a case of the men were the managers. The girls would come in as trainees, and they were taught, you know, this is your manager. He's going to flirt with you. You're going to flirt back.
Wow.
Things like that are still pretty rife in recruitment, although it is getting better-ish. I think the biggest issue that we're facing now is, rather than people getting the juniors in and flirting with them, we're seeing the mothers who are going off on maternity leave and then being discriminated against. We've got a case at the moment where we don't deal with employment law, but it quite often comes up that we've got someone being discriminated against, and we will work with one of our partners to fix it.
Yeah.
And she went off on maternity leave. Everything was fine. She had been off for about 2 weeks and she was told, we need you back in the office. And if you don't come back, we don't think that you want this job enough.
Wow.
And she's got that in writing, but
Mm.
she's too worried that if she leaves, she's just going to have this reputation of, oh, well, she didn't want the job because obviously, she'd been on maternity leave, so she clearly didn't want the job enough. Things
Yeah.
like that are becoming more and more common, and it's including things like that in the diversity training that's important, but it's quite often the director of the company that's doing it. So how do you train them?
Absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. I think, like I said, I've worked in recruitment for 20 years and I've worked in a heavily male dominated environment for the last 10. I'm really proud that Gattaca, the business that I work for, really looks after and champions women. And we've got a female program that is just about to launch actually throughout the business that I've been supporting them with, because I think a spotlight does need to happen. And I'm really, really passionate about women absolutely what you said about women being subjected, and I'm going to use that word, subjected to, if you're not involved and don't go along with the sexual banter or the banter at the work and the desk, you're excluded. So you have to go along with that. You have to display these male qualities in order to fit in. But then what support do the females have in your organization to promote them, and not promote them into leadership training or management training? It's giving them the skills that they need in order to feel empowered to continue to go down that career route, because women have to, whether they want to have children or not, make the decision as to whether, if they do have children, whether they're going to return to the workplace or not. And it's that break that happens in females' careers that then inhibits them to progress up the career ladder, because they've had to take that break and they're not supported when they come back. And businesses don't support part-time working because they don't think that you can be a successful recruiter and work part-time. It's such a big issue. And then the same organizations then have problems, having a diverse, a gender diverse management level or senior management level, because they haven't done enough to support the women at the beginning of their careers to make sure that they feel empowered to do those jobs. Rant over. Sorry, it's a subject I'm really passionate about, as you can tell, but I think it's so important. And actually, it's calling out this behaviour to say that actually we're not at school anymore. We don't, we should come to work and feel, even as a woman, included.
Yeah, and I think companies are becoming more aware of this, but only to the extent that they've started changing their policies around it. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing it done in documentation, but we're not yet seeing it fully flown out in terms of practicality and reality and how it's working in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Rebecca, in fact, I used to work with Rebecca. I'm just going to pop this comment up here. Thank you, Rebecca. Some of the finest work I've achieved is since becoming a mum and not being classed as a full-time in the office 70 hours a week worker. Yeah, true fact. Absolutely, Rebecca. I just think, the amount of hours and commitment you go out of anyone who's trying to, juggle childcare and working in recruitment or any other industry for that matter is truly admirable. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you saying that. And sorry, she's also gone on to say that she's when working for herself and being a boss. Yes, I love it. So what advice have you got then, Helen, for where does someone start? They're starting up their own business. They want to be compliant because obviously they want to do everything right from the off. They don't want to leave themselves open to any risk, which is fantastic. Where do they start? Because I feel like talking to you today has been brilliant, but I feel like I've got oh my goodness, you've mentioned this. So what is your basic checklist, and how quickly is it for someone to implement that?
So I think the first thing is to look at setting up the company. So how many shares are you setting up with? We had someone recently who set up with 1 million shares. And by the time I saw it, and I just thought, you do not have £1 million company. Setting your company up with 1 million shares valued at £1 each is telling HMRC that you own £1 million company. So don't do that. If you don't understand how to set up, definitely get advice from it. We can help you. Accountants can help you. A lot of people can help you just get that first basic thing right. Because once you do it as well, that is there. It's on Companies House. Everyone can go on and see it. So get that right from the beginning. If you are starting a business with someone, make sure you've got your shareholder agreement in place. A lot of people do start companies with the law of mates, which isn't a thing. So you might be best friends now, but get that paperwork in place just in case there are any issues, or just in case you need to decide, we've got this issue, we're thinking of moving into a different market, one of us wants to, one of us doesn't, how do we decide this? Well, actually, you can just have a commercial agreement that states anything to do with this person, anything to do with this person. If it gets more serious, you can't decide, it's in your shareholder agreement, let's revert back. Once you've done the basics, data protection. How are you going to be collecting data? As recruiters, obviously, collecting data is like a big part of the job. So are you telling everyone what you're doing with the data, how you're collecting it? Are you making sure it's only going into the CRM once people know that you've got that data? You're telling them, hi, got your data, this is what I'm going to do with it. Are you happy? Can I mark it to you? Is that okay? Once your data protection stuff is all done, start trading, get those terms in place. And unfortunately, people think that they can get a deal and then get the contract, but actually, needs to be the other way around. Contracts can take a really long time to get right. So you need to make sure it's bespoke to you. You need to make sure it's got the right procedures in there and you understand it. So definitely get those in place way before you think that you might get a deal. So that as soon as that deal comes in, get those contracts out. And aside from that, that is all you need to make sure that you are being compliant. If you're working in Europe or anywhere internationally, it's a bit different, but I'm happy to discuss that with people later on. But UK-wise, that is all you need in order to make sure that you've got a good basis to start trading compliantly.
Brilliant. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. I really think that's going to help so many people. But I cannot go without talking to you, and I hope you don't mind, in regards to your health and how the journey that you've been on, which has just been incredible over the last couple of years. So are you happy to kind of share that with us?
Yeah, sure.
I feel like I put you on the spot. Sorry.
No, not a problem. What would you like to know?
I remember seeing the post and thinking, and I'd known you for quite a while before you put that post out on LinkedIn, which went absolutely crazy. So is it, am I right in thinking it was your kidney?
Yes, so I've had kidney failure twice.
Right.
The first time was in 2014, the second time again in 2017. And it's actually what made me start my business, because I was talking to people at work and saying I might need to start dialysis, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, that's fine. So what will you do? Will you go and work from the center, or will you do it here?" And I was like, "No, I don't know how I'll feel, because I've never done this before, so I kind of need a bit more flexibility on that." And I could tell even when they started saying, "We will be more flexible. We will allow you to do this. We will let you do that." What people say, and I mean, you can be on dialysis for years. I know some people have been waiting 15 years for a new kidney. I didn't know how long I was going to be on it for. I just knew it would be an issue. So I thought, I'm just going to set up on my own. I'm going to go whenever I need to, work whenever I can, find clients as and when. So I quit my job. And the dialysis is actually fine. When you go there, you get put into these different groups. And I was in this evening group with people who were also sat working. So we'd all just be sat there, strapped up to these machines with our laptops. Like, what are you doing today? Oh yeah, I'm doing this. And it was like being in a weird medical office. Everyone's taking business calls and things like that. This is great. I don't have to pay for a remote office. I just come here.
Co-working. That's brilliant.
And obviously, once I had the kidney, I was expecting it to be like my first transplant, which went horribly wrong. I was in hospital for 9 weeks beforehand. Whereas this one, I had it and I was up walking around to see my donor within about 5 hours after I'd had my transplant. I said to my nurse, "Can I get out of bed?" And she said, "No, you need to be in bed today. Just sit down." Then about an hour later, I said, "Can I get out of bed? I've got so much energy." And she said, "No, stay in bed." And I thought, screw it. I'm going to go around and see my donor, make sure they're okay. So I just got tangled in all these wires walking around.
Amazing.
I felt fantastic. I had more energy than I'd ever had, and I felt fantastic. And I was back to work within 2 days.
Incredible. And how do you feel now?
I I think the novelty of having a working kidney is kind of worn off now. Now I just feel like, yeah, this is me. So whereas before I was like, oh, this energy. Now that I need more coffee.
Yeah.
Kidney now.
And thank goodness you did take that plunge, because the contract doctor wouldn't be what it is now if you hadn't have done that. So what are your plans? What are the plans for the team? I know that your team's growing quite significantly. Obviously you've got the house move tomorrow, but what are the plans, for the future?
We are growing. So we've got our key people in place now. We've got our ops manager. She looks after all of our back office clients. She keeps in contact with them, sends the reports, sends them their credit statements. We've got our commercial lawyer in place. She basically does everything that people send in. So I know a lot of people who I speak to, I'll be like, yeah, so I can do that for you. And they're like, you mean Miriam's going to do that? She is the best. She's in place. We've just brought on a new corporate lawyer who is due to be announced next week. They're going to head up the corporate team. And then once we've got those 3 key people in place, we're just going to keep on growing those teams, really. We've also got another team starting in 6 months. That's going to be a little different. We're going back to how I started when I was just doing contracting into different companies. So we've got a few people who go out now and sit on site and consult. And we're going to bring that back once we've got a few more people in-house that can actually spend the time to go out and help people on a more intense basis. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
It is. And last question, sorry, because I really could talk to you all afternoon. What increase have you seen in the uptake of startup recruitment businesses over the last 18 months? Because you were talking to me about some figures earlier before we went live, and I just think it's an entrepreneurial world out there in the moment, isn't it?
There are so many new recruitment companies, so many of them. And I love speaking to them because I think we probably take on about 3 new startups a week. Wow. But we probably speak to maybe triple that every week. And a lot of them, they're quite unprepared. They just think, oh, I'm sick of my job, or I've been made redundant, or I've furloughed. Now I don't feel appreciated. I'm going to set up on my own. But nobody really appreciates how hard it is to set up on your own. So a lot of those initial conversations that I have with people, it's a bit more about the business side of it and about the mindset side of it, as opposed to, okay, so you need some contracts. So we do go through things like, okay, have you thought about you're not going to make money for this amount of time, or maybe your experience doesn't quite cover that, or you're still in an employment mindset, you're not actually prepared to go and jump out on your own, you're not putting yourself out there. And a lot of them do say, okay, I need a bit more time to think about this and then I'll come back. Whereas a lot of them, they're so full of enthusiasm and they're so keen to go and change the face of recruitment that it's fantastic speaking to them, and kind of buoys me up a little bit for the day. I like to get my startup calls in early. So I'm like, yes, I can do it too.
I think that's right. And I think, I do a lot of kind of personality profiling with my clients as well. And I think it's good to know and to recognize that you have got a certain skill set, and then there's somebody else who absolutely complements that. So you don't have to do everything. Even if you're setting up your own business, you don't have to be the master of everything. You can go out there and get additional help in, and experts, like you were saying earlier in regards to the D&I expert. Buy the expertise in, outsource the expertise that you need to get yourself where you need to be, because your scale up will be a lot quicker than if you're trying to do it on your own and trying to learn all these new skills when actually all you need to be doing is going out there and recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I made so many mistakes when I first set up because I did think I had to do it all myself.
Yeah.
Even like, oh, how do I set up a bank account, or how do I do my emails? And I really screwed up setting up my emails to the extent that when I first brought someone on, she was like, I don't understand. Why are my emails so delayed? And so I've set them up via another company, and now we go like this. We're a triangle email server. Miriam said to me when she first came on, how do I access these folders? I said, well, you can't. They're on my Mac.
Yeah.
How to give them to you. So a lot of the startups we've put in place to point people in the right directions. There are obviously masterclasses that you can do if you want to increase, you want to scale. There's e-signatures if you want to make life a hell of a lot easier for yourself. IT support, which is probably the thing that I should have taken out initially. advisors, legal advisors, just getting your little team around you so that no matter what happens, don't think of them as outsourced. Just think, this is my person. This is my person for this. And get that little team. So it's like walking into your own little remote office. You always know who to go to, who that you need to contact for things.
Yeah, that's such a good way of looking at it. It really is. Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you so much. It's been a delight. I really hope the move goes well tomorrow. I can't wait to see what happens next with the Contract Doctor team. You've offered so much amazing support to so many out there in the industry. So thank you for being you. And thank you for just being funny and making me laugh most days as well. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. Thanks.
No worries. Take care. Bye.